Okay, so penalties. How do you win them? So, with the Euros knockouts coming up this weekend, I've done a little deep dive into the psychology and the statistics of penalty shootouts. And to justify using working hours to do this, I've made some tenuous links to culture and team dynamics as well. But understanding how you can win a penalty shootout to try and take what is essentially a coin toss and put it into your favour. So, firstly, before 1970, it was actually dealt with a coin toss when you needed to decide a game. But since then, they've brought in the penalty shootout, but the coin toss still has a rather large impact. So if you go first, you will win 60.5% of shootouts, assuming that on the whole you should score the first penalty, around 70%, as you'll see, and you put pressure on the next team. So winning the coin toss is still important. Now, 73% of penalties are scored. Of all penalties, 73% are scored. Now, in terms of the stats here, a lot of them are from penalty shootouts from World Cup, Euros, or Champions League, Europa League. But there are some stats from penalties from regular leagues as well. But 20% are saved and 7% are missed. So you're least likely to miss. Now, when it comes to shot direction, 44.6% go to the left, 20.1% down the middle, and 35.3% to the right. And the most likely place for anyone to shoot is bottom left, bottom right. And the least likely are the top corners. And we're going to, I guess, quite interesting as to where you can go later. Now, as well, do left footers or right footers prefer a side? From, I think, 1,000 penalties in the Bundesliga, they found that right footers going to the left and left footers going to the right being their natural way. There isn't really much difference. They don't really favour either side. So, not too much there. But with the goalkeeper, so if the goalkeeper knows that 44.6% go that way, 35.3 and 20 down the middle, you would think that the goalkeeper would make decisions based on that. But what the goalkeeper can do to put this in his favour is something quite interesting. So we assume the goalkeeper's lined up in the middle. If the goalkeeper moves himself 10 centimetres either way, assumed to the right on this one, it then becomes 60% more likely that the penalty taker will aim for that slightly bigger side, even if it's subconscious. 10 centimetres is very small, so immediately the goalkeeper can gain a slight edge by moving 10 centimetres. Also, if he opens up the side where the penalty taker is more likely to naturally go, even slightly more of an advantage there. The other thing is about goalkeepers getting big. So the stats suggest that when the goalkeeper makes himself big in the goal, it doesn't make them more likely to save it, but it makes it much more likely for the striker to miss because they try and squeeze it to the side. So if you can edge yourself one side and make yourself big, you can slightly increase your odds here. But despite that, where does the keeper actually go most of the time? So the keeper direction, 44.4% of the time, dives to his right. 49.3% of the time dives to his left, and then only 6.3% of the time does the keeper stay in the middle. And the reason for that is something called bias to action, which we'll come to in a second. But for a keeper, they are more likely to dive than not dive due to the fact that if they didn't dive and the ball went left or right, they look like an idiot. So they have a bias toward action. So you can kind of always guarantee, despite the fact that 20% of penalties go down the middle, the keeper is probably going to dive. So shot success, where are you most likely to score? So here are kind of your averages. So 63%, 74%, bottom left, bottom right, which are the most likely place for people to go, but it's also the most likely place where you're going to get saved or miss it to the side. Right down the middle, 70%. Now, your worst options here. Down the middle low or down the middle high. Down the middle low, you're very likely to be saved. So a lot of the time, the goalie's legs hang out and they manage to kick it out of the way. 58% of the time, your worst position to go is top middle. That's where, and most of them, majority of them are misses, people putting it over the top. But where are you most likely to score? And it's the top corners. So despite these being the least likely aimed at areas, if you go top left or top right, you have the highest likelihood of scoring. And also, they are never saved if you go top corner, or very, very rarely saved. It's often a miss, which stops people going there. So if you miss from there, if you go for top corners, you're more likely to miss. You're not going to be saved. 88% top right, and people very rarely go for it. So like I said, there's a bias to action there that also affects strikers as well. So you don't want to seem to have gone down the middle. That comes in as well. Risk aversion, self-preservation. So as we've just seen there, 88% or something of top right, you are going to be scored. If you go to the top right, 88% of the time, you will score. But people don't do it because if you don't score top right, it's because you've missed. Now, as you can imagine, as a footballer, if you miss the goal, the amount of abuse you'll get for professional football and they can't even hit the target. People would much rather be saved on a good on-target penalty than go for a more likely option and score and miss if it doesn't go right. So there's very much self-preservation. I don't want to look like an idiot here, and a bias to action. Same reason why if you know the keeper is most likely to dive, they won't go down the middle, because if you go down the middle and the keeper doesn't dive, you will get a load of abuse as well. So there's a lot of psychological pressure that comes from risk aversion and self-preservation. I don't want to look like an idiot, that stops people actually picking the best choice. So bias to action makes a keeper dive, and risk aversion and self-preservation stops the players going for the actual right areas. So if you went top right, you're most likely to score. Then you have think less. So A lot of psychology here says when you are learning a skill, you want to be thinking a lot about it, be conscious, going through the movement pattern in order to get that locked in. Now, once you've got that locked in, and most professional players do have it locked in, thinking about that skill, it's the same with golf and it's the same with baseball or any closed sports where a lot of the time you just have to perform one skill. Thinking less allows you to perform it better than thinking more. So just going into that automatic state. And that's why you need real clarity when you go into penalty shootout. Harry Kane, we'll get onto later, always picks it the night before, and that's what he goes for. So, and the last one is the contagion effect. So, with nerves and excitement, anxiety and excitement being very close emotionally, you want to push your team into that excitement mode. And the way you do that is creating energy. You want people to have clarity and feel good. You don't want them overthinking things. Therefore, people feed off the higher status players. So if the higher status players, and if you think about Cristiano Ronaldo and Jan Coutinho, he gets them going and he gets them in, take the penalty, get their energy high. If you can do that, the likelihood of people feeling good about the penalty is a lot higher. If the top players are feeling nervous, it spreads and this contagion effect happens. So that's some of the psychological effects here of the pressure. So what can the penalty taker do? There's only a few things the penalty taker can affect. It is where they put the ball, the power of the shot, the length of their run up, and the speed of their run up. And there are stats on all these. So this is power of shot. If you go for a 50% power of your shot, you will score 47% of the time. You'll almost never miss, and you'll be saved 53% of the time. If you go 75% power, you will score 81% of the time. So the most likely, you'll miss target 1% of the time, you'll be saved 18%. Now, if you go 100%, 63, 31, 7. So you're most likely to score with 75%, you're most likely to miss with 100%, and you're most likely to be saved with 50%. Moving on. So this is about the speed of your run up. So you have slow, check, medium, and fast. So the slow checked run up, that's sort of annoying checked one. 60.5% of the time you will score, but it has the most saves. Medium is 83% of the time you'll score, so most goals. And then fast is 68% of the time, but you have the most misses. So you can start to see here what the best sort of outcome is. Now your run up length. So there's loads of varying stats around this. It's probably the least effective stat, but on the whole, most common, 5 to 6 steps lead to 77% of the time to score. So if you think that 73% of all penalties are scored, you can see how by taking a few little options here, you can increase your odds. Now, shot selection is a big one. So, like I said with Harry Kane, he decides before. Clarity is probably the biggest thing with this. So you need to decide beforehand. The one thing you don't want to do is be thinking at the penalty what you're going to do. So if you're a goalie, you want them to be thinking about it at the time because it creates indecision. But if you decide before and you have clarity, it's huge. Now, this is a big one. This comes from game theory. Do not strategize. So you, as the penalty taker, have an advantage in the fact that you know where you're going to put it and the goalie doesn't. Now, if you try to strategize and think where might the goalie go, you give them a thought process that they can follow. And as I said, this comes from game theory. So what you want to do is be picking randomly. So ideally, you want to select 3 shots that you're comfortable taking. Maybe it's bottom left, top right, bang down the middle. And then you want to randomly select one of those shots because the goalkeeper could possibly follow your train of thought if you strategize, but cannot follow your train of thought for random. So you want 3 shots that you practice regularly and then pick one at random because then they have no chance of following that random thought. You don't want to give them any advantage at all. And you want absolute clarity so you don't think about anything when you go up to the spot, so you can just be focused. I know where I'm going, I know where I'm hitting it, I know what speed I'm doing, everything's sorted out. You don't give the goalie any chance. All of the goalie's advantages come from indecision and you making decisions on the spot, i.e., I want you to go this way, so I open it up. If you've already decided where you're going, they can't use that advantage. So if you're the penalty taker, what should your game plan be? So shot selection first. Ideally, you go top right. That gives you the best chance of scoring a goal is top right. It never gets saved. If you practice it enough, you shouldn't miss it either. So you want your shot selection nailed in, decided before where you're going, but ideally picked randomly as well, so the goalie can't know. If they know you always go top right, they can have that effect. It's the same with down the middle. If everyone did start going down the middle, the goalie would not only be there 6% of the time, that'd probably creep up as well. So shot selection, power, you want to go at 75% power. Run up speed, again, you want to be in that medium level. Run up length 5 to 6 steps. If you do all of these things, your likelihood of scoring goes from 73% up to near 80%. It's a lot higher. And what about if you're the goalkeeper? So ideally, you want to get big. You want to make them aim really toward the edge. If they see you as big, you want to try and take them out of their stride and out of their plan. You want to inch 10 centimeters one way and probably open up the side for their favored foot to try and create that indecision and make them think, even if they've got a plan, if you go this way, that might be a better option. So you want to take them out of their rhythm. As a taker, you want to be in your rhythm. Then you want to catch their eyes, make eye contact, speak to them, try and do anything you can to take them away from their plan, increase pressure, increase pressure. The goalkeeper has far less control, but there are some small things you can do to shift the odds in your favour. So there you have it. If you want to score the goal, if you want to stop the goal, these are your 2 best plans based on statistics and psychology to win a penalty shootout at the Euros. So hopefully Gareth is listening and can implement these ingenious tactics that I've identified. So yeah, if you got this far, thank you for listening. Hopefully it's been interesting for you.